Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. So it is that time once again to talk about a new upcoming patch coming to League of Legends in just a couple of days. There's a bunch of changes happening this patch, whether it's nerfs or buffs, and some of the buffs I have to say are kind of ridiculous, so I'm very curious to see how they're gonna play out once the patch finally does hit the live servers. But either way, if you guys end up enjoying this video and finding it useful or whatever and want me to continue doing this for every new patch that rolls out every 2 weeks, let me know by simply hitting that like button. And down in the comments below, also let me know which of the changes do you feel like will be the most impactful for the upcoming patch. But without much further ado, let's get right into the actual big changes coming to patch 7.1. The first thing I want to talk about is one of the smaller changes, but I do want to bring it up very quickly. The tooltip for Azir's E ability has pretty much forever stated that it offers 15% bonus health as a shield. But the text has been now removed from his tooltip, but the thing that's kind of weird is the fact that there's no actual gameplay change happening whatsoever. So apparently it has been bugged on the live servers for a very long time, but instead of actually fixing the HP scaling bonus on his E ability shield, they just decided to flat out remove the bonus scaling whatsoever. So if you've ever wanted to play Azir, then now is definitely not the time to play him, because not only is he considered to be one of the weakest mid laners, but he has just now surprisingly somehow gotten even weaker. So all you Azir mains, I feel sorry for you, I really do. But let's go into the very first actual change or buff or nerf happening to one of the champions, the first of which being Draven. So Draven has been in kind of a peculiar situation for the past couple of patches. I mean, I've seen some Dravens just simply go off and just absolutely annihilate games, but I've also seen some Dravens be utterly useless because of the meta champions in the jungle, for example champions like Vi. But Draven is receiving some changes which overall are going to be buffs. His Q ability now has base damage going up all the way to 50 base damage at rank 5, and now it scales off of 105% of the bonus AD he gets, so from runes, items, rather than just scaling from 85% at rank 5 from the total amount of AD that he has, including the bonus and just the flat or base. So this is a pretty decent change because obviously base damage is very good in the early game, but at the same time Draven, once he actually starts stacking up that AD and gets into the very late part of the game, that 105% scaling from the bonus AD is really going to start kicking in. So overall, I have to say, in the greater scheme of things, a nice solid buff to Draven. But moving along to the next big change happening this patch, it is going to be to Kalista, an ADC that feels almost forgotten. The buffs to her are as follows. Now it's only to her E ability, but it's pretty damn decent changes. First of which, her passive will no longer be deactivated when her E ability is on cooldown. This is really good because it does give a lot of extra time to now add spears to certain targets whenever the E ability is on cooldown. So for instance, if you use your E ability and maybe you don't kill the target in a team fight, let's say very late into the game or something, well, I mean, it will make things a lot better for you to start stacking them up again so that you don't have any downtime whatsoever. Or if you mess up in lane and maybe you kind of mess up the actual kill on the target with the E ability like on a minion or something, then you can still stack it up on the champion and still have some pressure going, and the champion that you're facing will still know that, you know what, these spears are being applied to me regardless of the E ability's cooldown and regardless of the mistake that this person has just made, so the pressure is still there because once the ability is off cooldown, you can easily activate it and boom, all those spears that you've been stacking up will instantly procs, so there's no downtime whatsoever and it minimizes mistakes. But just to sort of add the cherry on the cake, the minimum units killed for mana cost refund on the E ability has been lowered to only 1 minion from 2, so this also makes it less punishing when using it in lane. Next up, we have a nerf happening to Kennen. Now, Kennen has been a pretty damn strong champion for several patches now. He's been very dominant whether you play in mid lane or especially in the top lane. So here's what's happening to him now. The nerf is specifically to his ultimate, and looking at it all right there, you can see on the right, well, I mean, it seems a little confusing, but the gist of it is as follows. Now, his ultimate has less burst damage, so less initial damage, but over the duration of the ultimate on that same target, assuming you get pretty much the full duration of the ultimate on the target completely, it will do more or less the same damage. So essentially less burst, but still about the same damage, assuming the whole ultimate will hit. This is a pretty good change because again, it doesn't really nerf Kennen to the point where he actually just flat out lost damage in his kit, because again, you can still have the same damage if you play him correctly and properly, but playing against him feels a little bit easier now just because of that huge burst on his ultimate being no longer there. Moving along, the next big change coming to this patch, patch 7.1, is a nerf to Lee Sin. Now, Lee Sin is extremely dominant of a jungler at the very moment. I literally see him almost every single game I play where he's not banned. And I have to say, a lot of people building Lee Sin now with a warrior enchantment, maybe even a Yomu as a black cleaver, and then going pure tank, the damage that he can dish out is absolutely, it really is mind-blowing. It's a lot of damage. So, the nerf happening to him is going to be towards his ultimate, where he lost 50 damage at rank 1, 100 100 damage at rank 2 and a total of 150 damage at rank 3 ultimate. Is this enough to nerf Lucian down to the ground? No, I honestly don't think it is, but I feel like this will put him in a better spot because he still has that insane damage from his Q and E ability, which can do a lot to many players and many champions. But now the combo of Q, Alt, Q is overall weaker, not only because his ultimate does less damage, but in turn, the second part of your Q will technically also do less damage just because the ultimate is not getting them to a lower percentage of HP, since the second part of Lucian's Q is an execute. Again, I truly don't believe this will make Lucian useless whatsoever, but it will definitely put him down a notch or two. Next up on the list, we have a buff happening to Lucian, much like Kalista, more or less forgotten, and a fairly low win rate. For the longest time, Lucian has actually been one of the most popular champions in League of Legends, so it does kind of suck to see that he is not only not as popular, but his win rate has also fallen drastically. So here are the buffs happening to Lucian in patch 7.1. His passive is getting a slight damage boost, where now it'll increase to 60% on the second shot by level 13 rather than level 16. Not the biggest thing in the entire world, but I mean it is still something. But to make things a little bit better for Lucian, his Q ability is getting a buff as well, where at rank 5 it'll now grant him 20 bonus damage. All in all, some pretty decent buffs to Lucian. I mean, it will help his laning phase a bit by having that Q ability buff, and his passive will slowly scale a little bit better and quicker based on the level that you gain it now, being level 13 rather than level 16. And since the main combo with Lucian is usually maybe EW auto attack, Q auto attack, ultimate auto attack, you are proccing your passive fairly often, so this slight buff to his passive will definitely snowball over time as you consistently keep reapplying that passive in an overall trade or a team fight. Moving along, we have some nerfs happening to Papi. Now, Papi has been extremely obnoxious for my personal opinion being in the top lane because she could get to the point where she's so insanely tanky while still dealing a pretty considerable amount of damage that it feels extremely difficult to play around her. So here's the nerfs. Her passive shield duration has been lowered to 3 seconds from 5 seconds, and her ultimate got a nerf to where if you use the uncharged R, which is extremely common and frequent to do, it now not only deals 50% less damage, but the knockup duration has been also lowered. This is a pretty good change because a lot of Papi players tend to use this part of her ultimate where you just knock them straight into the air rather than very far away for bonus damage to kind of reset the cooldown on their abilities and to just CC them down for their team to arrive. And I mean, it has been extremely effective and very strong, and it perfectly sets them up for another E engage. So the fact that this is now kind of nerfed and just not only does less damage, but the duration of the CC has also been lowered is a pretty good sign. But there are also some nerfs happening to Ryze. Now, Ryze is a champion that I don't see as often as I used to, but the few times I do see him, and especially in the right hands, he's extremely deadly. So the nerfs to him aren't anything absolutely out of the ordinary or just completely crazy, but they are as follows. The bonus movement speed on his Q ability has been lowered, and the 2-rune discharge shield has also been lowered by 50 by the maximum potential shield. Now, like I said, even though you don't really see Ryze all that frequently and his win rate isn't anything just completely out of this world, the context for these nerfs according to Riot is the fact that, like I said, players that are very experienced on this champion can abuse him extremely well. And one of the main things that help players abuse Ryze properly is the movement speed offered by his Q. So they feel like if they were to lower it, it will make him weaker for those experienced players while not really affecting the people that don't play him or that are super experienced with him by too much. But let's move on to the next nerf. It's going to be to Shaco. Now, at first you might be kind of looking at these nerfs and sort of scratching your head wondering, why are these happening? Why is he getting nerfed? Well, I said this earlier in another video, but Shaco in the jungle building hybrid items like a Gunblade, maybe a Lichbane, is really strong. The amount of scaling he gets from both of these stats, AD and AEP on many abilities, it just feels completely overwhelming. And late game, he can instantly burst someone down in literally a matter of seconds. Now, even though I did try this build out in one of my Journey to Master episodes and didn't do super well with it, it doesn't mean that it's a bad build. It just means that I absolutely just had no idea what the hell I was doing. But I have personally seen players abuse this and use it properly, and I have to say it was absolutely scary. I mean, I would not want to face it. And it seems like Riot has definitely been looking into this, so they agree and they are nerfing the Q and E ability AP ratio while also reducing the explosion damage on his ultimate. The nerfs seem a little bit weird, but trust me, if you haven't experienced facing this hybrid Shaco, consider yourself lucky. The second last nerf happening is a very quick one, and it is going to be towards Shyvana. Her W Burnout no longer does 20% extra damage against monsters. Now, if you're not aware, monsters specifically refers to the jungle camps. Minions are the ones in lane. So essentially this means that her jungle clear has been slightly lowered in terms of speed. Apparently, according to Riot, Shyvana is just simply way too strong at the very moment, and even though they want her fast jungle clear speed to be one of her core kind of mechanics, it's still very much there, it's just simply not as fast. Now, the very final change that I want to talk about in this video, and arguably one of the biggest changes happening this patch, is towards Syndra. Her passive Transcendence, where it offers one of her abilities a bonus effect once it's fully maxed out, has been changed to what it offers to her W when you max it out. It will no longer let her grab 2 additional spheres. Instead, it will now deal 20% bonus true damage. I mean, I don't really know why, honestly. That's kind of, it really does sound ridiculous, because especially in the late game, it's just gonna do so much damage once you get some scaling going. It is gonna be, it's gonna be a lot of damage. Now, I could be maybe misreading this or just not really actually realizing the actual potential of this, but if you just think about it very quickly, it sounds overpowered. Now, is it gonna be overpowered? Well, I don't know for sure, obviously, until you actually try it, but just by reading this, I have to just already make the assumption that Syndra is going to be pretty damn busted. Now, she did get some nerfs to her W and her ultimate in terms of just actual damage and AP ratio, and the cooldown on her ultimate has also been increased, but that's not enough to compensate for the fact that her W now deals 20% bonus true damage. True damage. That goes through literally everything. So I am very, very curious to see how this is going to play out in the next patch. But either way, guys, I mean, there you have it, the biggest changes happening to patch 7.1. If you ended up enjoying this video, let me know by hitting it with that like button. Let me know down below in the comments which of the changes do you think is going to be the most impactful, even though I feel like the answer is without question Syndra. But either way, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to share this with your friends so everyone knows what's happening and what's coming up in the next patch. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll hope to see you for the next video. Peace.